I'm sure you're happy. Metals are at all-time highs. We've been talking about it on Bloomberg Savannahs repeatedly. Copper higher. It's not just copper. It's base metals across the board. Is there pressure building to find more supply, and what's coming online?
Well, so I think it's been that pressure to find new supply that's underpinned the price escalation that we've seen, certainly in copper. So this is something we've been talking about for years. We talk about the fact that copper demand is ubiquitous, used in all walks of the economy. You layer in on top of that the energy transition, renewables, very copper intensive, and data centers. So data centers, your previous guest was talking about how energy intensive they are. That requires more copper, and yet copper is getting harder to find. Deposits are smaller, lower grade, deeper. BHP starts as the world's largest copper producer, and we've grown by 30% in the past 3 years. We have 4 big growth prospects ahead of us, including one in the US.
We've got it ready to go in Arizona,
yep.
I believe. Resolution Copper. I talk about it on the show so often.
We're chomping at the bit.
What is taking so long to get that joint venture moving and get the copper out of the ground?
Look, so it's held up under a administrative injunction currently. So I can't speak highly enough of the support that we've seen from the administration. So the administration, be it Secretary Burgum, Secretary Wright, President Trump, have been very keen to get more mining and processing going in the U.S. because they understand the importance of critical mineral supply chain resilience. And of course, it would support the U.S. economy and specifically the Arizona economy as well. So we're all ready to go, but we have to let the legal process take its course.
How long has it taken? More than 10 years?
It's taken a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, can you just quickly put a bow on that and say, is it going to be expedited in a serious way? Could we see it in the next, say, year or two, lifetime?
It's very hard to predict. We were almost there a few months ago, but it's been held up for a little bit longer. We remain optimistic that it will ultimately be a project that goes ahead. It could supply 25% of the U.S.'s copper demand for decades. So this is a pretty significant project, one of the best undeveloped copper deposits globally. And from a BHP perspective, it's but one of 4 major copper growth projects in the portfolio.
You sound like the administration has been really helping you and your business. At the same time, there's potentially more tariffs coming down the pipeline when it comes to this administration. How do you navigate that environment?
So, look, it is a more volatile, uncertain environment than it has been in the past. But from a mining sector perspective, 5 years ago, it would have been hard to get airtime for mining companies globally. There wasn't a lot of interest in mining as a sector. If anything, there was a lot of pushback on mining, where I think there's been a growing awareness of just how important metals and minerals are to the world. Continued economic growth, economic well-being of billions, energy transition, and the digital transformation. And so broad brush support now that we're seeing, certain strong support in the US, but support in other countries as well. That's something we should all welcome. But of course, there's going to be uncertainty that we need to navigate along the way. The tariffs aren't impacting BHP directly in any big way because we only have about 3% of our revenue in the US currently, but it's something we do keep an eye on.
You got to acknowledge, though, Mike, there's been a change in management in the last 10 years or so, and it was forced by investors. There was a switch from volume to value, to discipline. Is there a little bit more of a push now to get back to a bit more volume? How do you manage the discipline alongside the increased supply?
Look, so it is all about value. Now, we've been very deliberate in reshaping the BHP portfolio, and this is after a decade of being very disciplined when it comes to capital allocation. We've had license from shareholders to reshape the portfolio in a way that makes BHP more ready for the future. And a big part of that has been growth in copper and in potash, a fertilizer that's needed for sustainable agriculture. So we've been pretty successful on that front over the past a number of years, and we're looking forward to executing these big growth projects ahead of us.
You got South 32. That was the spin-off of about 10 years ago.
It was simplifying the portfolio. So
the reason I'm bringing up South 32 is because I'm wondering what you'll do with the coal assets, the iron ore assets of BHP as well. Is it something you might be thinking about, some echoes of that decision back then? So
we always have to have the discipline of thinking about what the right portfolio is. But we believe that the diversified model holds value. We're running the best iron ore business, or best performing iron ore business in the world, generating strong margins. And then our growth focus is really in copper and potash. And that model allows us to have a very strong balance sheet and to fund growth through the cycle, which we see as a differentiator for us.